of Washington. Thanks so much for joining on this Halloween evening.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So your district alone, I don't have to tell you, has some 42,000 households that rely on SNAP or food stamps. I wonder, when you heard the president's response tonight to what was a court order and him saying, well, I have some questions, we need some clarification, even if we do clarify, it's going to take some time. Do you read that as a signal he's going to defy the court's order?
It's hard to say. I mean, two very dishonest things that President Trump said there in just a very short period of time. One was, gosh, I don't know if I can do this or not. It's very, very clear that he can. Two federal judges just said not only that he can, but he must. And also, as I understand it, back in 2019, when the government was shut down, he did it as president at that point. So it's absolutely not up for debate that he can do this. And so the fact that he is stalling is just fundamentally dishonest. And second, I love the phrase, I'm always willing to meet with Democrats, just not right now. I don't think he understands the meaning of the word always. Always means always. And so obviously he's not willing to meet with Democrats. And we've had government shutdowns before, and we've always stayed in session. First of all, it's just completely unacceptable that Mike Johnson has essentially vacated and deactivated the United States House of Representatives since September 19th. When we're in a shutdown, this is when we need to be in negotiating. And in the past, we've tried to find ways to mitigate that shutdown, tried to find ways out of it. So simply to avoid that, it's just not how we should be handling this situation.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting tonight that Democrats and Republicans were actually making some progress on a bipartisan deal to get the government open again, but that Trump's filibuster threat, threatening or pressuring Republicans to break the filibuster, blew that up. Were you aware of progress in negotiations to get the government open? And if so, does that threat disrupt those negotiations?
Yeah. Yes. No, the senators are talking. God bless John Thune to this extent. He still believes that he has a job to do, unlike Mike Johnson. So he is talking. Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats are talking. I've spoken with some of them, and I'm aware of those conversations. And I think that is a positive development and where we need to go at this point. I mean, look, the whole point of this, the biggest point of this, was the healthcare crisis that is descending on us on November 1st. On October 1st, we Democrats said, you have to address this. And Mike Johnson said, talk to me on November 21st. But the crisis kicks off before that. But now we're to the point where they haven't addressed it. And the pain is ramping up. How do we get to a better place since Mike Johnson won't negotiate on this and neither will Trump? So yes, those conversations are going on. I don't think the filibuster thing impacts it one way or the other. One thing I've said throughout the shutdown that people need to understand is this is a Republican budget that they passed through their reconciliation process and that they passed last March. And they did it with Republican votes for the most part. Reconciliation bill, all Republican votes. But because of the filibuster, now they need Democratic votes. The point of the filibuster is to force Democrats and Republicans to work together. But what Trump decided to do was, no, the point is, we're not going to negotiate with you. You just have to vote for our thing. And that's not the way this is supposed to be approached. So if they want to do a straightforward 100% Republican budget, then yeah, they ought to get rid of the filibuster and go ahead and just have Republicans vote for it. But the better option is to negotiate with Democrats, deal with the healthcare crisis, get the government back open, and stop the pain that is happening right now for so many Americans and is only going to get worse, as you said.
Let me ask you this, because you posted back in May 2021, when Democrats control the White House and both chambers of Congress, you wrote, quote, "It's time to get rid of the filibuster to build a more just and equitable nation." Would you?
Yeah.
Do you still hold that position regarding the filibuster?
I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think part of the problem, like I said, the filibuster was designed to force negotiation. It's pretty clear at this point that that's not happening. And what it's really doing is frustrating democracy, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. You win, you get in charge, and then you can't do anything. So I don't think the filibuster is serving any particularly useful purpose in terms of forcing negotiation. And it's absolutely frustrating democracy. You got 50% plus one, and that's not enough to get something done.
If John Thune changed his position, right now he says he won't do it, but if he changed his position and busted the filibuster tomorrow, you'd say, well, hey, that they own the House and the Senate. That's their right.
Yeah, I would. There's a lot of people who wouldn't. Most Democrats wouldn't. I don't want to attempt to be speaking for the Democratic Party here, but I have long held that view, and I continue to. It is not serving a useful purpose, and it's definitely doing harm.
Okay, I want to talk about another issue, that's Venezuela. You're ranking member on the Armed Services Committee. You were part of a briefing or non-briefing given to members of Congress earlier this week. The U.S. has been taking out what the Trump administration says are narco-terrorists with deadly strikes almost on a daily basis now, sometimes more than once a day. Are you satisfied with the administration's legal justification provided to the American public and to Congress?
No, it's pretty clearly illegal. I mean, look, what the president has decided is to apply the death penalty for drug dealing. That's basically what he's decided. Look, you can have a policy discussion about that. But right now, the policy in the United States of America is no, we don't do that, number one. And number two, if we did, typically there would be some process. Not only has the president decided on the death penalty for drug dealing, he has decided to be judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah. No due process, nothing. He makes the decision. And then the explanations that we receive, well, who is subject to this basic death sentence? 24 different narco-terrorist groups, which they have not, I've asked multiple times. I haven't even gotten the list. Maybe the list exists somewhere of who these folks are, but who's in them and why these 24? Why not others? And then they say, not only if you're part of those 24 narco-terrorist groups, but if you are, quote, affiliated with them, you are subject to this lethal force order. And we just don't have a clear answer on who this is. So it's a massive expansion of presidential power without a sufficient explanation. And drugs are a major problem. Deal with them. So.
And with a new word added to our vocabulary, narco-terrorist. But before we go, the U.S. has sent an enormous amount of firepower to Venezuela, or it's on the way. You got a guided missile destroyer. You've got the most advanced U.S. aircraft carrier diverted from Europe to Venezuela. What do you believe this administration is preparing for, actually? And does that include military action to remove Nicolas Maduro from power?
Nobody knows for sure. That's part of the problem. The lack of transparency on this, the lack of explanation to Congress and the American people is unprecedented. They haven't even briefed the intel committees yet on the basis for why they're doing all this. What I believe is there's multiple things going on. One, President Trump definitely thinks that this is an appropriate response to the drug problem. And part of the thing is, okay, so we're blowing up boats with cocaine. This isn't even fentanyl, by the way, which is the main killer in America. This has nothing to do with fentanyl. But then the drug traffickers will adjust. If you're blowing up boats in international water, then they're going to ship the stuff in a different place. Well, President Trump, I think, okay, well, we'll go there. But to go there, you have to go to the sovereign territory of other nations, not international waters. That's a big step. So I think he's contemplating that absolutely. Number two, he's contemplating using military force to put pressure on Maduro. The hope that they have is that Maduro will just get scared and leave. Yeah. I don't see that happening. And number three, I absolutely think it's in the playbook. Is there a way to militarily take him out? And I will just say this unequivocally. Based on the last 25 years, the United States of America should be out of the regime change business. I thought we weren't supposed to be engaging in foreign wars. So I think all of those things are on the table in Trump's mind. At this point, it's really hard to say what he's going to do.
Yeah. And of course, Donald Trump himself, of course, criticized the U.S. war in Iraq and regime change there as well. Congressman Adam Smith, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you. Really appreciate the chance.